Now this is part 2 of Aqueduct 1124 2012, and this is the 10th race, and I believe I've got the player working now, so we'll crank that up here in a second. But I also wanted to point out that our two matching ratings here, number 10 and number 11, both 111, and both good numbers for this distance. And the past history over the last 5 years has shown as much repeatedly. And past history has also shown that this number is also a very good number at this distance. So, and it usually depends on what you have in the race, higher and lower numbers. And here we have many more high numbers than we do low numbers, as opposed to the first race. So let's take a look and see how that plays out. And number 11, of course, what I wanted to point out is 12 to 1 in the morning line, as compared to 4 to 1 for number 10, and number 10 is also the third morning line choice. So in the criteria of form handicapping, number 10 shows up pretty well, but number 11 doesn't, and we're saying that number 11 has a very similar ability, although their last race, for each horse, the last race was run at a lower and higher early speed for number 11 and lower early speed for number 10. But we also see that this usually comes together at the finish line today, is usually what happens with that in a two-turn distance in particular. And over the longer distances, the speed is much less of a factor, and the slow is less of a factor. It is the distance that seems to make the difference and brings both horses together, as long as they don't go out of boundaries of that early speed. And what is likely to take place here for today's race is that number 11 will try to run at a little lower early speed today, and number 10 will try to run at a little higher early speed today, and get a better placement and try to run that same type of run, hopefully from maybe a different position or something like that. But I'm saying they'll probably run the same type of run as the last race, just some adjustments to the early speed. So let's take a look and see how that goes. There they go. Finally out of the gate. And we've got number 4 taking the lead in this race. And I believe this is the favorite, number 8, fighting for that lead already in the first turn. So that probably won't bode well for number 8 making it to the finish line under very good power. So we'll see how that works. Number 4 is out in front by a few lengths. Number 8's trying to keep up, and our running the stretch horses are probably somewhere a little far back in there. I believe this is number 11 here, and number 11 has a very good position. And let me see if we can find number 10 in this crowd. This might be number 10 coming around on the outside here. Sometimes kind of hard to see that saddle blanket and number on this replay, but this, I believe, is number 10 here. Starting that run coming into the turn, and Number 4 tries to hold up, but can't quite. Here comes number 11, and this is number 10 on the rail. And who do we have in the middle? Number 1. And number 10 on the inside just nips number 1, who splits number 10 and number 11 with that big run at middle early speed. So the race finishes just the way it looks. Here we'll see it again. There's number 1 trying to take that lead and keep it. Number 11 putting the heat on him. And number 10 on the inside. And there they are, 10, 1, 11, and that might be number 4 that had its head up there in 4th place. But we'll look at that order of finish here in a minute and what that superfecta paid. And the trifecta was very healthy too, with a 20 to 1 in 2nd position. And I believe 10 went up to 7 to 1 in the odds. So the public and the handicappers and the people that like to go by form handicapping didn't like number 10, and number 10 doubled odds. But let's see if we can find number 1 again at the start and see if number 1 is up close to the front from the very beginning. I believe he was. And I believe number 1 makes an attempt to go all the way wire to wire with that big run, and but I think it's number 1 that does a little tussling with number 4 and number 8 early, and if that hadn't been the case, number 1 might have held up. But let's see. That should be number 1 right there on the rail. Number 4. And number 1 goes ahead and drops back. Doesn't put up much of a fight for the lead, but maybe just a little bit. 61 to 1. They let the number 1 go. Triple its morning line. And I believe this is number 1 right here. So he does settle in right there in the front part of the race. So it's hard to say, but he runs fairly evenly. It's hard to say whether he really lost much there at the beginning, trying to get the lead before deciding, hey, I'll go ahead and let 4 have it. Hangs in there with close to the lead, but just that little extra, if number 1 did spend some extra energy early in the race, that may be what cost number 1 the race right there at the wire. It doesn't take much, and many times the race is lost at the start of the race, not at the end of the race. But at any rate, you've got 3 horses that are pretty well matched in ability. And there they are in a nice tight little group, several lengths ahead of the rest. And number 10 just manages to get his head out there. And that's what it's about. That's all it takes. That's what you're betting on, is just a few strides difference. And you're betting on very similar abilities most of the time, and the advantage is in understanding what the nuances are in those abilities. The little differences, because it's very small things that make the difference between winning and losing. So form handicapping addresses practically none of them, or even brings them up or discusses them. You never hear anything about distance other than one is longer than the other. or this is a short distance. And but you don't hear anything about how important distance is, and you certainly don't hear anything about how important it is to watch the horses race, and how important it is to look at what is happening before the race, during the post parade and the warm ups, and what's going on in the odds board. The establishment wants to make sure to have you, if possible, make your bet, make your decision, and make your bet before breakfast on race day. That way, they can sell you some information, past performance records, and get you stuck on a horse with a good record, and you'll bet it, and with just that information and nothing else, and they can make some fine money in that situation. So these are some of the other reasons why it's important to do some analysis right there before the race, and the best time to bet, if you're going to bet on a race, is about 3 minutes to post time, or even closer to post time, if possible. You want to take in all the information you can get before you make that bet on a horse. And yes, that was number 4 that just barely hung in there for 4th. And that's the type of run number 4 shows, is a good early speed. But see, if number 4 hadn't fought for that lead and had taken a position that number 1 took, number 4 might be our winner here. Just that little bit of struggle, because this lower number is a run out of gas kind of number if this early doesn't go right, or just so. And the low numbers, like our favorite here, needs that early speed and early scenario to go just right for it to be able to win. So these lower numbers, where they are a good ability and all of that, it is a shorter and smaller window for that horse to hit usually, unless it has a great speed advantage like number 4 did. But if that's what number 4 has to use or try to use to win the race, sometimes the horse, it's easy to go just a little too fast. But who is there to clean up if that happens? It's these longer numbers and higher numbers, and numbers that suggest the horse will have energy in a stretch. And in a grass race, that is a particular thing you want to take a look at. And even a number this high, when you see the early speed that is at, and it is in the middle, that might be exactly the way the horses run, just as we have seen. And studying that and paying attention to those little nuances, and getting a good grip and a good feel for Ability X ratings, and a good understanding of the ability of the horse and how that ability lays out from the gate to the wire on a racetrack. All of that is worthy of study, because if you can visualize that run of the horse through Ability X ratings, and come to understand how that race is going to flow, how it could possibly flow, and what the potential is and what the possibilities are, then that $2 superfecta paid $160,550. 10, 1, 11, 4. And 10, 1, 11 were in that tight little group, separated by a couple of lengths from the rest of the bunch. Yet only one of those, well, actually none of those were liked or bet very much by the public or the handicappers or the lovers of form. Number 10 went up to 7 to 1. Number 1 was let go at 61 to 1. And number 11, I didn't catch that one, but I think it was at least in this 12 to 1 neighborhood. But that's what happens when form handicappers decide that a horse can't win a race. There you go. And the trifecta, our little 3-horse group there. Just give me the 3 power runners here in this race. 111.10, boom, $11,984 for a box that you could get for 12 bucks. So again, I'll say that horse racing is worth the time to study it, but you want to make sure that you're studying horse racing and not what form is supposed to mean. First is good, and by 2 lengths is better than that, and all of that kind of stuff. Horse racing is the run of the horse from the gate to the wire, and its ability to do so. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's wrapped around, and that is what Ability X Ratings is for, to help you understand that, help you see it, and to help you put it to use in your wagering and helping you to make good betting decisions all the time, because you don't need to win but a few of those and you're in good shape. So I appreciate you joining me for the recap, and that you will join me for others in the future. Thank you very much.